Have you ever looked at your paycheck and just wondered, how do they come up with this specific number? Or maybe you've wondered why some jobs pay an absolute fortune while other really important jobs pay, well, a lot less. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the economics of the labor market and figure out exactly why that is, right? It's the classic question. Why this pecking order of pay? It seems like it should be about how hard you work or how vital your job is to society. But the real answer is a bit more complicated. It all comes down to a fascinating dance of economic forces, and the first step starts with how a company sees your value. So to get this, we've got to put ourselves in the shoes of an employer for a minute. When a company decides to hire someone, it's not a random choice. It's a cold, hard calculation based on one simple question. How much money will this new person make for us? And that brings us to this key idea. It's called marginal revenue product, or MRP for short. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but the concept is actually pretty straightforward. It's just the extra cash the company brings in because they hired you. That's it. In the world of economics, your value to a business is the revenue you help create. Let's break down how that actually works. Okay, so check out this table. Let's say the going wage for this job is $300. Simple. Now, the first worker the firm hires only brings in $200. Not a great start, but the second worker, they generate an extra $350 in revenue. Cha-ching! That's a profit. The third worker is even better, bringing in $440. But watch what happens next. The fourth worker brings in exactly $300, just enough to cover their own salary. So the company breaks even on that hire. But that fifth worker, their MRP is only $240. If the company hires them, they actually lose $60. So what does a smart company do? They stop hiring at worker number 4. That's the golden rule. Hire until the money a worker brings in equals the money they're paid. And what's so cool about this is that we can actually graph it out. This downward sloping MRP curve, that is the company's demand for workers. It's a visual representation of that golden rule we just talked about. And it tells us something really fundamental. If wages go up, firms will hire fewer people. If wages go down, they'll hire more. This is the first crucial piece of our paycheck puzzle. But of course, the company isn't the only one with a say in this. That's just one side of the coin. Now let's flip it over and look at things from your perspective. What makes you, or anyone, decide to even offer up your time and skills for a job? And this is where it gets a little weird and wonderful. You would think, pretty logically, that the more a job pays, the more hours you'd want to work, right? And for the most part, you're correct, but only up to a point. See this graph? It's the famous backward-bending supply curve. It shows that once you start making enough money, you might actually decide that an extra hour of free time, to hang out with friends or just relax, is worth more to you than an extra hour of pay. You literally start using your high income to buy back your own time. Now, the supply of workers also totally depends on the skills needed. Take a brain surgeon. The supply of brain surgeons is what economists call inelastic. That just means that even if you doubled their salary tomorrow, you wouldn't get more surgeons. Why? Well, you can't just snap your fingers and create one. It takes years and years of intense training. But for a job that doesn't need much training, the supply is highly elastic. A tiny bump in pay could bring a whole flood of people willing to do the job. So we have the companies who want to hire people. That's the demand. And we have the people willing to work. That's the supply. In a perfect textbook world, these two forces come together to set the perfect price for every single job. And there it is, the good old supply and demand graph. But this time, it's for jobs. That spot where the two lines cross, that's called the equilibrium wage. It's the theoretical sweet spot where everything is perfectly balanced. The number of jobs available is the exact same as the number of people who want them. It's neat, it's tidy, but well, the real world is anything but. Yeah, that simple little graph is a great place to start, but it's not the whole story. Not by a long shot. The real world is messy. It's full of other powerful forces that can shove wages all over the place, far away from that perfect market price. In fact, there are 3 really big players that can come in and completely change the game of supply and demand. We're talking about organized labor, the government, and in some cases, a single all-powerful employer. Let's take a look at each one. First up, trade unions. By banding together and bargaining as a single group, a practice called collective bargaining, workers can get a wage that's actually higher than what the free market would have set. The potential trade-off, at least according to this model, is that at that higher union wage, firms might decide to hire fewer people, which could mean fewer jobs to go around. Next, you've got the government. It can step in and set a minimum wage, which is basically a legal price floor for labor. The obvious goal here is to help fight poverty and make sure people earn a basic living wage. Now, this classic economic model suggests a potential side effect, a labor surplus. That means more people want to work at that higher wage than companies are willing to hire, which could, in theory, lead to some unemployment. And this, right here, is the core of the never-ending debate over minimum wage laws. And finally, you have the polar opposite of a powerful union. It's called a monopsony. This is what happens when there's basically only one major company hiring for a specific kind of job. The classic example is an old company town where the coal mine was the only place to work. If workers have nowhere else to sell their labor, they have very little bargaining power. And that allows the company to push wages down, way below what they'd be in a truly competitive market. Okay, wow. So we've looked at the employer side, the worker side, and all the real-world things that mess with the perfect model. So now, let's put all of these pieces together and finally get a clear answer to our big question. Why does pay differ so much from job to job? So at the end of the day, your paycheck isn't about just one thing. It's this complex cocktail of factors. It's about your personal skills and the actual revenue you generate, your MRP. It's about how rare those skills are, but it's also about bargaining power from things like unions, government rules like the minimum wage, and even how much power your employer has over the job market. It's the whole shebang. And to really get to the heart of those massive paychecks for, say, CEOs or movie stars, economists have one last trick. They split a paycheck into two parts. First, there are transfer earnings. You can think of this as the please don't quit money. It's the bare minimum a company has to pay you to keep you from walking out the door and taking a different job. Then there's economic rent. This is the good stuff. This is the extra cash, the bonus you get on top of that minimum, purely because your skill is super rare or in crazy high demand. And boom, this is where it all clicks into place. For a superstar athlete or a world-famous actor, their talent is one of a kind. The supply is basically just them. Because of that, almost their entire gigantic paycheck is economic rent, a huge premium for that unique skill. Now compare that to a job where lots and lots of people have the necessary skills. The supply of labor is huge. In that case, the wage is almost entirely made up of transfer earnings, just enough to fill the job, with very little, if any, economic rent on top. This is the key to those huge pay gaps. And that leaves us with a really important question for all of our futures. We've seen today how the supply and demand for skills shapes our paychecks right now. But what about tomorrow? As technology like AI continues to get more powerful, what skills are going to become rare and valuable? And how is that going to totally reshape the jobs we do and the money we earn for doing them? That's a question that's going to define the world of work for years to come. Thanks for watching.